Hey everyone, geophysicist Stefan Burns here. We have something incredible happening right now, not just on Earth. We've had an exceptional amount of earthquake activity. I'm getting tons of people asking what the heck is happening, both in real life and of course through this channel. Everyone's kind of wondering and a little bit worried about all this recent activity, especially because it's been so clustered around the Americas with Venezuela, tens of thousands gone from that. May they rest in peace. Really, really traumatic and destructive and just an awful event. Now the 7.3 struck Mexico, 30 plus seconds of shaking. The 7.2 struck Japan the same day as Venezuela. There's been big earthquakes in the Philippines, Indonesia, Kamchatka, Russia. I mean, everywhere. It's been exceptionally active since that magnitude 8.8 megaquake struck last July. We are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of that. But it's not just that. We also have been having a ton of solar activity. Solar maximum is a very active time, not only for the sun and for the earth, but for the entire solar system. We are at the end of solar maximum, the beginning of the descending phase, when often actually we get some of the biggest solar flares and strongest geomagnetic storms. We have this gigantic coronal hole on the sun right now. This is going to be impacting us in a few days. So that is quite significant. We don't see them this big that often, these giant scars in the outermost plasma atmosphere of the sun, but it's more than just that. If you look at all these different factors, they're all significant on their own, but there is a incredible planetary activation that's occurring right now with almost every single planet in the solar system in a geometric relationship to all the others. Now we get these sort of planetary alignments like conjunctions or oppositions, sextiles, trines, different specific degrees, all the time. You'll get a Uranus-Pluto conjunction. That's actually quite rare, but you'll get a Uranus-Pluto conjunction, let's say every 111 years. More frequently, like a Jupiter-Neptune conjunction every 13 years, right? So they're infrequent, but because there's so many planets, there's usually something happening. In fact, we've had a big clustering of significant planetary conjunctions going back to 2020. So we had a great mutation in 2020 with a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. Of course, there was also a Saturn-Pluto conjunction that involved Ceres, Mercury, the Sun. That was right before COVID. That was crazy. We had a whole bunch of Jupiter conjunctions like Neptune and Pluto in 2022. We had a very significant Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in 2024. All of those were big, they were significant, but now what we are seeing is a planetary geometry involving multiple planets simultaneously in perfect harmonic aspect, and it's active right now. It's been active loosely for more than a month now, but in terms of ultra precise angles and geometry, it really clicked into effect yesterday, July 17th, and it'll go through tomorrow, but we have a whole nother month plus where they will be basically still in aspect to one another. So this is very, very significant because astrologers have been looking through the record for this specific planetary alignment now for they've identified it decades out. They've been waiting decades for this. They've been looking through the record going back, the ephemeris data, thousands of years. They haven't seen a similar alignment like this precise basket arrangement. So this is very, very unique. And it then has an impact on the space weather and also on earthquake activity because there's quite a bit of research connecting those. And also if you just pay attention to planetary geometry and solar activity and also earthquake activity, you see a very clear connection in time. So we have that active right now as we've had all this historic earthquake activity unfold over the past few months and over the past year. And we could get something even bigger to result from this. These coronal holes specifically are extremely well correlated with high magnitude earthquake activity. So there's that. In fact, the last time that we saw this coronal hole on the sun 28 days ago was, well, right when we had those earthquakes strike Venezuela and also Japan. That was on the 24th of June. Let me show you that really quick. Because I have the video from last month, and we can look specifically for when it swept by in June, right here. So this is pretty wild. Here's this coronal hole. You'll see the evolution of it, okay? So notice the date there. Starts on the 23rd, goes through the 24th, cutting through the equator of the sun. So it's trans-equatorial. And what is the corona, if you're wondering? The corona is the outermost atmosphere of the sun. It's very, very high temperature plasma, okay? So plasma is matter that has been broken apart and given a charge. So you have electrons, you have protons, you have ions, which have a positive charge. Electrons have a negative charge. And because it's superheated, now the electromagnetic force is the dominant force, because electromagnetism is 10 to 36 times more powerful than gravity under these ionic conditions. So gravity is, of course, an important force, and you can't discount gravity because it's an additive force. It just keeps adding. But when it comes to near local effects like this, electromagnetism is by far the dominant force to be aware of. And it's not just magnetic fields, it's also electric fields. And so when there is a deficiency of plasma in the outermost corona, which has the highest temperature plasma, you see these scar-like features form. And out of them, the magnetic field extends deep into interplanetary space, which means it goes actually past Earth in its orbit, meaning we get a direct magnetic connection to the sun in a very specific way. Of course, the sun is always emitting solar wind, which has a magnetic field. So we're always loosely magnetically connected to the sun. But with these coronal hole high-speed streams, we form like a direct magnetic connection. Think two magnets really now talking to each other, okay, rather than there being some kind of nebulous medium in between them. And also the solar wind becomes very, very fast, and that crunches on Earth's magnetic field. And as a result of that, we have a compression of the magnetosphere. The plastosphere precipitates ions down into Earth. We get a geomagnetic storm, and it's usually during these coronal hole high-speed stream impacts a high magnitude earthquake activity starts. Of course, I've also mentioned that often we see solar activity connected in with planetary geometry, specifically really harmonic planetary geometry. So not just one or two planets, but multiple planets with angles and aspects at the same time like we have. Well, earthquake activity also lines up with that. So that's in the background right now. In addition to that, on the 29th of July, so the entire rest of the month is going to be crazy, folks. That's the forecast, okay? Maybe it doesn't pan out, but at least the forecast, based on all the available data and looking at it, just looking at it, the rest of the month and going into early August is going to be crazy. So on July 29th is our next moon cycle, our full moon. So we have a full moon, and in fact, that's also when we have a Jupiter cazimi. So what that means is that we will have a Jupiter, Sun, Earth, Moon alignment. And in fact, directly behind in that alignment is Pluto. So we also have a trans-Neptunian object in there, the one that's closest in basically. So you have a Jupiter, Sun, Earth, Moon, Pluto alignment. That is very significant. That's active July 29th. So we have this coronal hole high-speed stream coming in. Let's go back to our recent one. Again, this is the one that was on the 24th. So we have the data. The moment this connected to us and the solar wind velocity went up to 600 kilometers per second, boom, within about an hour or two, we had the 7.2 and 7.5 earthquake doublet strike Venezuela, and then the magnitude 7.2 strike Japan less than 30 minutes after that. That's just one example. On this channel, we've been doing this for a while. We've gone through all the examples in recent time of these coronal hole high-speed stream impacts and high magnitude earthquakes. They act as a trigger and also as a loading mechanism. So you have normal plate tectonics that's loading stress onto faults and plate boundaries, of course. The Earth has her own things that she's doing, but there are trigger mechanisms. And not only is the sun a big trigger mechanism via electromagnetic forces, you also have the moon being a big trigger mechanism via gravitational forces, and that's also in conjunction with the sun. So during the full moon, that's when you have your tidal increase. So we have that coming up on the 29th. We have Jupiter, the biggest planet in our solar system, in this alignment on the 29th. That all is in alignment, in fact, with what's known as the cosmic dipole, the natural energy gradient that exists throughout our universe. Going from the constellation of Aquarius to Leo, this full moon, Jupiter, Cazimi, Pluto, everything alignment is roughly in line with that cosmic dipole. Not exactly, but pretty much right there. So it's worth mentioning. So a lot to go over in today's video. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist, space weather guy. Your cosmic bro here to help you understand what is happening on the Earth energetically. We examine earthquake activity, geomagnetic storms, volcanic activity, severe weather, planetary alignment, solar activity, interstellar cosmic forces, consciousness, all these things and more. I release videos almost daily. Thanks for being here. We're doing this live. If you're watching this on replay, hello and welcome. There's a lot of information always in the video description. I put resources, data links, and more, so check that out. And while we're talking about that, FYI, we are doing a special sale till the end of July to celebrate this historic planetary alignment. So you can go to my website, earthevolution.com. And in fact, this is the Earth Analytics page where you can check up on what's happening with the Earth. So we see our global seismic activity level. We have different, let me refresh this so it shows up really nice. We have different models and feeds of the sun, for example. We have Schumann resonances, our real-time radiation belts, aurora model, real-time views of the sun, sunspots, and even a solar system model. So you can see where the planets and the sun and the Earth are in relation to the constellations and more. That's at earthevolution.com/energy-analytics. You can bookmark this, go there every day if you want to stay up to date, learn this stuff yourself. But we also have a store. So that's earthevolution.com/store. And these products are made and mixed in-house. We ship it out directly, made in the United States by my dad and I, available to everyone in the United States. All organic tea blends, also merchandise, as you can tell. And I just want to, we have natural products like this bug spray is really amazing, especially in the summertime. Smells good, keeps the bugs away. I would definitely pick some up if you don't have some already. We have a spirituality starter pack. If you're new to all this, you get a sage bundle, you get a spirituality and a super optical clarity quartz crystal. That's a great value. I want to point out though two things. I want to point out our fruit tea, because our fruit tea is a fantastic iced tea and it's really good for your immune system. And you know, there's things going around right now, this weird water parasite. You know, there's a lot of things actually floating around that Americans in general, and North Americans, let's say, are kind of not aware of. And you go to other countries and you come face to face with it. Well, they exist here too. This is great for your immune system, but also tastes fantastic. You can brew it up, big batch, and then cool it down. It makes an amazing iced tea, super refreshing. It has strawberry, rose hips, elderberry, hibiscus, and a little bit of lemon balm, which is nice, soothing, and calming. So I recommend you pick up a fruit tea because it's been hot, hot, hot this summer. That is for sure. And this will, trust me, you're gonna love this. It's so good. And it's not just like a little powdering of, you know, these tea blends that, or whatever products that you buy in the store. It's like, it'll advertise strawberry and there'll be strawberry flavor. So, you know, that's all bunk. What you buy in the store is all this like the powdered dust at the bottom of a barrel with some natural flavored bullshit in there. It's true, it's just what it is. So that's unfortunate. We don't have products like that. It's just the simple ingredients themselves from really high quality suppliers. I also want to mention the herb coffee here because this stuff is amazing. If you're not drinking herb coffee, definitely pick up at least one bag. It's the best coffee alternative you find. In fact, though, it's still 50% coffee. This is single origin, shade grown, organic Peruvian coffee. Yeah, it's a lot, but it's amazing. And it's also, the other 50% is composed of chicory root, dandelion root, and lion's mane mushroom. And not just, again, just a powdering, a dusting of, haha, there, you got it. No, it's 12.5% lion's mane mushroom, organic, just the good stuff, not some extract or whatever, just plain lion's mane, organic, good. So this stuff is really good. It's nootropic, helps you get focused, creative, in the flow, all the things, and makes a great coffee in the morning. And also because it's half calf, you can drink this later in the afternoon too and not be worried about maybe not being able to fall asleep at night. So this is really, really good for your gut microbiome and more. I recommend you check this out. So the code to get 10% off till the end of the month is planets. Planets. Planets for 10% off till the end of the month. Want to do a special sale for this historic planetary alignment. And let's check that out here. Before we go any further, let's look at our solar system. Here it is. We have this application called Solar System Scope. It's really good, shows us a 3D visualization of the solar system, and we see where we are right now. So here is Earth, there's the sun, you see Jupiter there behind. So Jupiter right now is in the constellation of Cancer. By Western Tropical, it's in the constellation of Leo. They're all off like 24, 25 degrees. Yeah, they have the reasoning for it, but the more I study into actual true sky, 13 constellations, accurate to size, everything, it just simply makes more sense. This is my opinion. But so this is really an astronomical look. We're looking at the alignment of the planets, and there's even astronomical explanations for this, which we can get into. But here's the 18th of July. And if we go forward to the 29th, you'll see right here now is that Jupiter opposition. Or sorry, not Jupiter opposition. This is Jupiter Cazimi. So this happens once a year. Basically, it's like every 13 months or so, where we get Jupiter to disappear behind the sun, and it's in the heart of the sun. And this often is a pretty notable time for space weather and solar activity. These Cazimis usually line up with some significant activity. Jupiter having the strongest magnetic field in the solar system outside of the sun. It has an opposite polarity magnetic field to the Earth, which is interesting. And in addition to that, if we zoom in, you'll see here our moon. So that is a new moon right there. So we have this new moon occurring simultaneous with this Jupiter Cazimi. So you have a Jupiter, Sun, Earth, Moon alignment. And then if we flip around, you'll see Pluto there participating as well. So there is Jupiter, the Sun, Pluto, all of them in a very close alignment. So that is very significant. If you discuss the archetypal significations of this, then it's pretty interesting because Pluto represents subterranean power, like this secret kind of subterranean power. It's an Earth sign of Capricorn, and the moon is conjunct, the moon being this tidal trigger of a lot of earthquakes. So that's pretty resonant with that. And then if we look on the other side, Jupiter also is this powerful influence, this kind of inflationary, big, bombastic influence, and it's conjunct the sun. So that speaks to maybe heightened solar activity. Cancer being a constellation of power. One of the fundamental archetypes of Cancer is about power. So that is quite significant. It's roughly lined up with this, this cosmic dipole that exists. So I can show you that. Here's the cosmic dipole. And we see that, well, first off, here's our ecliptic plane, okay? It goes like this. And we have the constellations. So here's Libra, there's Virgo, there's Leo. Here's Cancer. If you go down here, maybe a little difficult for you to see, but I believe in you. We have Capricornus, that's Sagittarius right there. Capricornus, Aquarius, Pisces right there, and then you continue on forward, okay? This is the galaxy right there, so this is aligned to the galactic plane. But we see that we have lower cosmic flux, about 7% lower cosmic flux coming in basically from this area, which is like a constellation of Aquarius, Pisces, Pegasus. This is actually the direction that the sun is traveling, towards Pegasus, inclined 60 degrees from our ecliptic plane. Sun's traveling towards Pegasus. We have a lesser amount of cosmic energy flux coming in from over there, and then we have more coming in from this area where you have Virgo, Leo, and also Cancer right near the edge. You also have Hydra, you have a few other constellations. So this is where you have 7% more. And there's this natural polarization that exists. And well, I mean, I personally am not a big bang advocate, but this cosmic background radiation, this is what we see in that. So there's different ideas to that. I'm not going to get into that, but in general, we see this slight energy dipole, right? Two poles, 1, 2, and there's a difference between them. We see that. Also interesting to point out here is how much cosmic energy we have coming in from the constellation of Cygnus, where you have Cygnus X1 and Cygnus X3. So that's interesting. But this is roughly in line with this cosmic dipole. Not exactly, because that would be Leo. So that would be next year when we get this Jupiter Cazimi. It'll be in line with that cosmic dipole. But this is still worthy of pointing out, showing that what's happening right now, this larger planetary alignment, we'll go back to that. But this larger planetary alignment is also being activated cosmically. So let's go back to that. Here we are. What is this larger planetary alignment that I've been mentioning? Well, and I've mentioned it before, but we'll talk about it again, is that we have perfect sextiles right now between Pluto and Neptune. And that goes back to their 1862, 1863 conjunctions, okay? So these are some big cycles we're talking about. That's like, the Neptune-Pluto cycle is like a 492-year-long cycle. So they were conjunct back in 1892. So if I said 62, I meant 92. 1892 is when they were conjunct. And now Neptune is at its final closing sextile going from 2026 to 2032. So 60 degrees apart. Then there's going to be a decades-long period where they're not in some specific aspect, and Neptune will move forward. We also have this Pluto-Uranus trine. That goes all the way back to 1965, 1966, when they were last conjunct. Of course, that being a very pivotal time energetically for a variety of reasons. Look at the geopolitics, look at the solar activity, earthquake activity, etc. Big time period. They are in their opening trine. We see that we have this Neptune-Jupiter trine. So that goes back to their conjunction in 2022, but that is a significant alignment. Of course, this means that Jupiter is sextile to Uranus. Uranus is sextile to Neptune. So that's their opening sextile from their 1993 conjunction. That's a 171-year cycle that just started in 1993, 1994. So there's all these internected cycles. And then we have this Jupiter-Pluto opposition, which is very big. You get big, powerful changes and movements to happen during that. So that is the planetary geometry where you have this sextile from Pluto to Neptune, 60 degrees from Neptune to Uranus, Uranus to Jupiter, 60 degrees. So you have trines in between like this, and then you have this opposition there. And of course, on the 29th of July is when the Earth moves into that. The moon lines up with it as well simultaneously. That is when I think we're going to be having some significant energetic activations. And really, that is just the climax moment for the planetary geometry. What we see is that these events, there's a range of time around that. You know, it's kind of like a wave coming in. The event itself, or the events, should they happen, they usually do. Not always, but usually. They may not hit exactly on the climax day. And maybe a few days off on either side. So that's kind of the deal. Just like you may have a sports game and the team wins, but maybe the most important play was in the first third, not exactly at halfway, right? That's kind of the idea. But the overall game, the thing, was defined by what happened throughout, but really specifically by that key moment. So that's the kind of a way for you to think about this. So this is happening right now. It really went active on the 17th, and now it's going to be activated even further by all this space weather that we have. And by the way, we're not doing a question and answer today. We are going to do a sound healing after this presentation. So I encourage you to stick around afterwards for a sound healing. I'll pull out my sound bowls. I'll play them for a little bit. We'll have some fun. This is a really important moment energetically with this planetary alignment, and so I want to help us connect to that by doing a sound healing meditation. So thank you for participating in that later if you decide to do that. So here we have our space weather model. All right, here we have our space weather model from NOAA, and you'll see this coronal whole high-speed stream. Here we're looking top down. That's the sun, that's the Earth. Here we're looking vertically, like a cross section. So this is south and that's north. So we see first off it's called the co-rotating interaction region, or a CIR. It's basically a wall of plasma. So you get this wall of plasma to hit at the front of a coronal hole high-speed stream, and I can show you specifically also what that looks like right here. We can check this out really quick. with this graphic that I created. There's the sun, there's the coronal hole. You get this high-speed stream. At the front of it is a co-rotating interaction region. Imagine it's actually along the entire front of this low-density, high-velocity, high-speed stream. Okay, that sweeps by and eventually hits the Earth. It goes out like this, as we saw quite clearly. And here it is again. So that co-rotating interaction region sweeps by, starts to get geomagnetic activity started on Earth. Then you get the high-speed stream to come in. That's usually when we see the earthquake activity. Sometimes earthquake activity is just slightly before, but it's almost always with these coronal holes right during that geoeffective time period. So that specifically, as they're showing here with this model, is coming up in just a few days. We see that the co-rotating interaction region for the coronal hole really hits around here on the 20th. There's this other one in front of it as well. So they're showing kind of a double CIR impact. Really, we should expect things to start getting juicy tomorrow, really, but probably not in a big way. But really, once this hits, once we're in that high-speed stream, around the 21st, 22nd, then things are going. And look how big this high-speed stream is. We're going to be in that for multiple days. Because again, here is our sun right there. Well, this is our old sun. We can look again at our new one 28 days later, right here. That is a very significant coronal hole. It's cutting through the entire equator, and it's not just like isolated just to the equatorial region. It's also well to the north and to the south, meaning that the entire space in dimension above the Earth and below, to a pretty significant degree, will be participating in this and will be altering in its energetic environment, right? The particle density will go down, the speed will go up, etc. So that is more impactful than otherwise. We also see it's not super, super, super wide. Like imagine it's like this wide. That would really be significant. We've seen those before. That's pretty important. It's not super wide like that, but it is fairly wide. But really it's this long vertical feature which is really going to sweep by completely, activating us with this planetary geometry, because the sun is connected to all the planets. And then, well, we're always connected to the sun as well, but we'll be very connected to the sun starting around the 21st, 22nd with that coronal hole high-speed stream. Then we go into the full moon period on the 29th with Jupiter Cazimi. So that's kind of the progression. Right now, the historic planetary alignment is its most precise. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. Then around the 21st, 22nd, we have this coronal hole high-speed stream go active. We'll be in that for a few days, and then right as that's starting to wane and come to a close, then we have the Jupiter Cazimi, the full moon, and also a historic planetary geometry from a heliocentric perspective. So we can look at this planetary geometry here using our Truesky astronomical chart. And so let me show you this. Here it is. And this is set already for the 29th of July. Okay? So we look at this. This is not a Western tropical astrology chart. You notice that there are 13 constellations true to size with their positions. But here you can really clearly see these aspects. The 60-degree aspect, the 60-degree, the 60-degree. This is that basket configuration everyone's talking about. Barbeau's basket is what people are calling it, because he identified this decades ago and was talking about it in the birth of a new civilization and blah, blah. I don't know, but the guy is pretty good. So they say. I haven't read his books or anything, but the basket. Here we see the sun conjunct Jupiter, the moon conjunct Pluto, and well, this is geocentric. If we change this, you'll see that it's basically the same. If you change this from geocentric to heliocentric, I think I need to actually hit apply. Here we go. We see that the configuration looks almost identical, but now we see Earth participating here with this, that's the icon for Earth. So we see Earth is in this significant geometry heliocentrically. But we also notice that Venus now is in this trine relationship to Saturn. Everything's talking effectively at this moment in time. And we can even go forward a day, because we know that with heliocentric planetary geometry as it relates to space weather, and you can read the work of J.H. Nelson if you want to learn more. A basic starting point is with his book Cosmic Patterns. It's a little pricey because it's not really in print anymore, but you can check it out. It's a fantastic read. Really good stuff. This guy is figuring it out back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Okay, we'll see that Mercury comes in here and goes conjunct Neptune and then Saturn. And so Mercury is seen as the activator. So going from the 29th of July, when we have that Jupiter-Cazimi and that full moon, then we get Mercury to come in and activate this planetary geometry all the way through the 1st of August. And we see that it's Neptune in these relationships with Pluto and Jupiter. Saturn's a little bit off, but it's also roughly participating if you look at it from a heliocentric perspective. And then we see Uranus down there, Neptune's fairly close by, Ceres is fairly close by. This is the biggest asteroid in the asteroid belt, making up the majority of the mass. This is Eris right there, so a trans-Neptunian planet even larger than Pluto, but much further out. So you see that this is very significant heliocentrically, and I think really the 29th of July is a big time period. Now, we do have an agent that could be the activator of this, which would, of course, be the sun. But here we can see that. Let's look at our sun. You'll notice that there are some big filaments coming in here from the side. And that is because we have some big sunspots that are just about to appear on this Earth-facing side of the sun. So look at the difference, right? You don't see any big plasma coronal loops or anything like that on this side. Here you just see them really big, extending out, tons of activity, right? We got stuff coming in. So we can more specifically look at that right here. And here we see our far side sunspot intensitygram. This is for the past 14 days roughly. These two sunspots that we're seeing right here, they're the ones that gave us tons of M-class and a few X-class flares last rotation. So you'll notice that when they first rotate in, right here, that they actually were kind of small. They died down a little bit, specifically this one. Then it had this resurgence, and now it's died down a bit again. So we don't know how they are going to perform on Earth facing. This one still has a big core. But basically what we've been seeing from these sunspots is they've been undergoing almost like this breathing, where they're increasing and then they're decreasing, they're increasing again. They're not just like a one-shot wonder where they popped up and then they've totally disappeared. They've had solar flux emerge from them multiple times. So we just saw this emergence right here, roughly around the 180 Earth opposition point where you have Jupiter approximately, right? And you have that basket configuration. Maybe it's related. With Jupiter, it probably is, but the others are pretty far out. But now they've started to decrease a bit, but still they are the biggest sunspots that we'll have rotating in view in the next day or the next couple of days. This guy will appear, it's actually already appearing on Earth facing right now. The other guy has about maybe 2 days left until it appears. We could see a big new push of solar flux out from those sunspots. And then as a result, well, we could be in for some pretty significant solar activity like solar flares and solar storms. I am thinking that we are going to get a big solar storm, or at least lots of solar flare activity and solar storms around the end of July. Just based off of the planetary geometry, heliocentrically, it's a historic configuration, worthy of J.H. Nelson's book. It would be amazing to have him sitting here with me looking at that planetary geometry, because he'd be probably like his brain would be whirling, just like mine is. So though we don't necessarily, those sunspots will be on the Earth-facing side of the sun during that time frame, though they'll be starting to rotate out. I think we'll probably have to get some new sunspots to form that could become really active. And we see that where one day there's nothing, 2 days later we get a mega sunspot. They can form really quickly. That's probably what's going to happen. That's my feeling, that's my forecast. We'll find out. Now, earthquake activity, as you know, has been quite significant. Now, how does this impact earthquake activity? So let's go back here. And we know that we just had this magnitude 7.3 strike Mexico. So we can, in fact, give that a look. And this was a pretty big earthquake, of course, as you know. Here we see the seismic energy propagating outwards from the epicenter across the North American seismic network. If you're seeing red, that means motion up. See blue, that means motion down. You're only seeing a lot here in California because California has a super dense seismic network, all right? There's less seismographs in the other parts of the United States. You see Alaska also has a very dense seismic network. They don't have that many in Canada or Mexico or the US. I mean, they do, but they're mostly concentrated. That's where the super high quality data that's easily accessible is. So that's why we see it really concentrated there. But again, you see this earthquake rupture. You see the initial P waves sweep through. And then you'll see right there, then you see the shear waves follow, and then the high amplitude surface waves really come in next, and there they are. So tons of energy broadcast out from the event, not only to the north, but also to the south, all across the globe. This spread out across the entire globe. And that's basically saying, hey, North America, South America, pay attention. Also the Caribbean. All those places really now are looking super activated because of the 7.3. Because in addition to that, we also had, of course, Venezuela, 7.5, 7.6. So that 7.5 and 7.2, big deal. Biggest since 1812, bigger than 1812. Then now with the 7.3 and a huge aftershock swarm, I mean, check out all these aftershocks. 6.0, 5.7 today, that was yesterday. 5.3, 5.3, 5.2, 5.2, 5.2, 5.1, tons of magnitude 5s. I mean, so much energy releasing here from this earthquake swarm in Mexico. It's insane. Today, we had a magnitude 5 there strike the Cayman Trough, 5.1, right perfectly where you get this energy to go across here, and then you get the first junction to split up, right? You get this transform fault to break right there, and then it continues over. Remember, we had a magnitude 7.6 strike that came in Trough in 2025. That was February, if I recall correctly, 2025. There was also a big magnitude, what was it, 7.7 that struck Jamaica in 2020. In fact, let's look at our data here. Here we have historic data going all the way back to 1900 for this region, okay? You'll see that the 8.2 that struck in 2017 is actually the biggest earthquake of this entire area going back to the year 1900, January 1st. So that's big. You see other earthquakes there, right in there. For example, this 7.7 Jamaica, right near the top of the list, north of Jamaica, but clearly there's been some really big movements with the Caribbean plate. We'll see the 7.6 that struck the Cayman Islands in here. There it is, the 8th of February, 2025. So there have been other activations of the Caribbean Sea Plate before the earthquakes in Venezuela and the 7.3 in Mexico, but they're all connected together very closely in time, all within a decade, right? 2017, going back 9 years, 2020, 6 years ago, you do the rest of the math. It's all within a decade, very close cluster in time. And well, when there's big movements at the Caribbean Sea Plate, you can expect big activity to the south and also to the north. So I don't think we're done with activity in California. I've talked about that a lot on the live stream. I'm not going to belabor the point, but I don't think that 7.1 that struck Ridgecrest, California, 2019 is sufficient for everything that's happened. I think there's more coming. I think maybe very potentially it could happen with this full moon. We'll find out. But this full moon is looking ripe for a really big earthquake. Another reason why I think it could be just really within the next couple weeks. And we're also talking longer time frames here of like a year, 2 years, but we hope to get it nailed down, right? That's the hope. That's the goal. Not saying it's going to happen, but I'm doing my best. There's a lot of reasons why this full moon is looking very, very critical. But this is one of the other reasons. Here we see our live satellite imagery and weather map. We see Tropical Storm Elida here off the coast of Baja. And nice cyclone. We can go back in time a little bit so we really see it nicely. So look at this nice cyclone. I mean, well, it's not a cyclone yet, it's a tropical storm. But you see the nice vorticity on that, the swirling. That's a big storm. This historic El Nino, perhaps the biggest El Nino ever on record, building up this year, going into next year, making the water off the coast of South America, Central America, and North America exceptionally warm. we're going to get these storms coming up. So all the way through Tuesday, there's big swells expected for Baja, San Diego, LA. And well, that's all tons of energy loading into the Earth. Stronger long period seismic waves. We had king tides with the new moon. Interesting to point out is that the earthquakes in Venezuela and also the 7.3 Mexico occurred roughly with that new moon and the king tides. So that has been clearly a synchronized trigger for big activity with the Caribbean plate and well, nearby junctions, right? In general, this area. So with this storm here off the coast shooting big wave energy all up to Baja and California, that's just another trigger. It's just another energy loader. It's not a big one, but it's there. It's not nothing. It's just like it exists versus not existing. If it didn't exist, it'd be like, okay, we're not even thinking about it. It's not a factor. It's an additional factor on top of everything else. That's really kind of the key, is looking at how many factors we have aligning and then adding them all up and issuing probabilistic forecast. That's kind of the idea. So with everything that's happening, this is really quite significant. And we have that magnitude 6 here. Mexico, you won't forget, of course, the 6.1 that struck there, historic to the northwest of Cuba in the Gulf. That was quite big. I mean, it's a historic earthquake, never seen one that big before in the Gulf. 5.6 that struck Willits Ukiah, historic. I've talked about that in depth, but we could be looking at big activity in California all the way up to Cascadia and even up to Vancouver Island. So all this area here is really implicated. And in addition to that, just to finish up, also looking at Colombia and going all the way down the coast here through Peru, Chile, and then of course Ecuador. This whole line is looking very active because of all this activity up here. And we haven't had a big earthquake in South America for some time. So a few years, and it's a little overdue as compared to the Western Pacific. That's the other thing though, the Western Pacific has been so active that don't be surprised if we get big activity here from that coronal hole, because this is where most of the activity has been. And the general principle in general, right, is that where the activity is, it just kind of begets more activity until you get something else to shift it over. And well, we've kind of had that just in the past month, right? Now we've had a lot of activity shift over here. So maybe that is now, we're really shifting things over here, but we're not far enough away yet from all the activity that we've had here to really completely ignore this zone. So I know that that kind of widens out the forecast region. That's the problem with earthquake forecasting, is that it's a very imprecise science at this point. Most people don't even think it's possible. They say it's impossible. Of course, everything's impossible until it happens. The 4-minute mile is impossible. Going to space was impossible until we did it. So it's almost an art form more than a science, but that's just basically what I can tell you. So yeah, there is a lot that's happening right now. And it's, again, not just solar activity, it's not just earthquake activity, it's not just planetary alignments, it's also this cosmic dipole that everything's aligning with simultaneously, and that really clicks in on the 29th of July with the full moon, the Jupiter-Cazimi, Pluto opposition, all the things. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. We are going to have a blast, and it's active right now. So let us do a cosmic connection meditation. It has been some time, but we will do that. I'll pull out my singing bowls and let us get into it. 2 sound bowls, as you can tell. This here is for the third eye chakra, they say. This is for the crown chakra, so they say. I think you guys can vouch for that. We've done this plenty of times. You guys love them. I understand some people may be skeptical of these things, but really, you have to experience it to believe it. Experience the magic. Once you do, your world may change forever. So, recommend that you get into a comfortable position, whether seated, laying down, however you want. You could do maybe a little yoga flow with this if you want. Headphones would be best, though there will be ads. I'll turn them off for the replay, but there will be ads right now. Unfortunately, I can't really change that, so just be mindful of that. But yeah, get comfortable. And breathe. The planetary activation that we've been waiting decades for has begun. Relax. Let it go. Because in order to bring in these energies, we need to receive these energies. Empty yourself of thoughts, feelings, and just immerse yourself in the cosmic frequencies engulfing our planet and you, all of us. I'd like you to lengthen your spine, improve your posture, draw your shoulder blades down and back. Breathe into your chest, but first, of course, draw into your diaphragm, your rib cage, your chest. Lengthen, breathe, transmute and alchemize. Close your eyes, focus on your third eye. What do you see? Whoever you are, wherever you may be, if you are watching this now, you are here receiving this cosmic activation. There's nothing to do. You just simply receive. Destiny brought you here, and who knows what's in store. It's not just about you or someone else. Together, we act as one large receiver of this energy, collectively, both here live and also across time. Our body is designed to receive these energies. Schumann resonances, solar flux, cosmic flux, electromagnetic crystalline activations. Absorbed into our fascia, into the water that hydrates every strand of DNA, every molecule in our body, into our brain, our neurons, our nervous system. Transcend beyond simply feeling or hearing the energy, but to being the energy. Welcome in peace, love, compassion, joy, bliss, appreciation for all that is. We trust in the higher plan that is set before us. Though we may not understand all that is transpiring, there is a reason for everything. There is a tremendous metamorphosis that is occurring right now, not only for Earth and for us, but for the entire solar system. Trust in this process. A new Earth is beginning, and we will be just fine. Those who are in resonance with natural rhythms, the sun, the moon, with their own circadian biorhythms, Schumann resonances, honoring these sacred energies that we've evolved in for billions of years, we will be just fine. There's nothing to fear so long as we stay in natural resonance with the earth, the sun, and the cosmos. So thank you all so much for joining me today. I've been your host, Stefan Burns. Hope to see you in future videos. I release videos almost daily. And if you had an incredible experience during this sound healing that you would like to share in the comments below, I would highly encourage you to do so. This really is an incredible planetary activation that we have right now with this harmonic configuration, the basket. We haven't seen this sort of planetary configuration in thousands of years, and that is not an exaggeration. That is fact. So to have this solar activity corresponding with this, to have these major Earth activations with earthquake activity and volcanic activity happening along with this is no surprise to me, but it speaks to a larger reason for this. So wish you all the best these next few weeks, going through the full moon, Jupiter Cazimi, Pluto opposition, all that and much more. I'll be here all along the way with energy updates, and now that I'm back home, more of these sound healings, Q&As, and more. So please subscribe to take part, and thank you all for making up this wonderful community that has aggregated. I'm only half the equation with producing. You guys are the other half. And together, the sum is much greater than just the individual parts. So we truly have built something amazing here, and we will keep that going. So thank you all so much. God bless. Much love. Wishing you well, and I'll see you all in the next video.